We live in an age where film fans basically relish poking holes in their favourite and not-so-favourite films alike. Because why simply be entertained by a movie when you can treat it like a challenge to be conquered? But sometimes fans do raise a genuine question about a movie's internal logic, which categorically isn't answered in the film itself, and is perplexing enough that it genuinely passes muster as a plot hole. In which case, with radio silence from the creators themselves, it falls to ever-inventive fans to get to the bottom of the matter. And while the majority of these solutions aren't strictly canon, or really canon at all, each nevertheless makes quite perfect sense with the facts as presented. So here's to you, movie lovers, and your endless enthusiasm to fix what the screenwriters did not. Gareth here from WhatCulture.com, and here are 9 infamous movie plot holes solved by fans. Number 9. How can Kevin order pizza if the phone lines are down? Home Alone. Kicking things off with an appropriately seasonal plot hole now. I am recording this bad boy in December, FYI. If the phone lines are down in the Chicago neighborhood where Kevin McAllister lives, then how is he able to use a phone to order a pizza? Well, back in 2013, Redditor Fire, an individual with some apparent experience in telecommunications technology, replied to a post pointing out this plot hole with a totally plausible explanation. As they put it, I always assumed the tree actually severed the main trunk line to the whole town, but local calls within the same exchange still worked. And even if you didn't want to take a random Redditor at their superficially convincing word, in 2015 the Huffington Post put the explanation to AT&T Vice President Federal Regulatory Hank Hultquist. Hultquist acknowledged that though phone systems are very different today, back in 1990 it was absolutely a plausible scenario for local calls to be possible while line damage prevented Kevin's parents calling him from Paris. Brilliant. Number 8. Why did the World Security Council almost kill the Avengers? The Avengers. Ever since the release of the Avengers, many fans have questioned how much sense it made for the World Security Council to initiate a nuclear strike on Midtown Manhattan in order to wipe out the Chitauri. Given that this would also take out the Avengers, surely humanity's mightiest defense force, it seems awfully stupid, even if you consider the World Security Council to be a basically feckless shower of bureaucrats. But back in 2020, Redditor Elgaraz quite satisfyingly provided as good an answer as we're ever likely to get. The World Security Council was working for Hydra. Given that Captain America the Winter Soldier revealed Hydra to have infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D. decades earlier, it makes total sense that they do something as clumsily destructive as this, in an attempt to kill most of, if not all of the Avengers under the guise of idiotic desperation. In the very least, it would have severely crippled the Avengers as we knew them, and with minimal PR spin, led to them being blamed for the whole catastrophe. Number 7. Where did Max come from? The Grinch. It's made clear in the flick itself that both the Grinch has been living on Mount Crumpit since he was a child, and he hasn't visited Whoville in literally decades. And so, where exactly did his pet dog Max come from then? While you could simply hand-wave this by saying that the Grinch sneaked down to Whoville and kidnapped somebody's dog, there's actually a far more fascinating truth in plain sight, as was so colourfully revealed by TikTok user at dogmom_AF in 2020. Remember that Whoville's garbage disposal chute leads directly to the Grinch's home on Mount Crumpit, a considerable point of ire for him, and so the simplest solution is thus. Max was an unwanted Christmas present sent down the garbage chute. Given the heartbreaking tendency for families to overzealously get dogs as Christmas gifts which are unwanted a few months later, hence the iconic "a dog is for life, not just for Christmas" campaign, it absolutely tracks that this is how Max came to meet the Grinch. The Grinch, who of course isn't all bad, took Max in as his companion after finding him amid the rubbish, and that is that. Number 5. Where are the real gods? The Road to El Dorado. Cult fave animation The Road to El Dorado revolves around 2 con artists, Miguel and Tulio, who were mistaken for gods after reaching the legendary city of El Dorado. Given that the film more or less implies that there are real gods, why do we not see them in the movie? And why would they simply let 2 con men pose as them? Redditor Zane1112 summed up a widely circulated theory that makes it all make sense. There actually is a god in the movie, and it's the armadillo Bebo, who was calling the shots all along. The evidence: Bebo is present in a number of improbable or downright magical moments, whether helping guide Miguel and Tulio to El Dorado despite armadillos not living in jungles, being visible as the duo narrowly avoid death on several occasions, seemingly triggering and stopping the volcano eruption, knocking over a cup which gives them the idea of how to stop villain courtiers, and flying around during the ball game sequence. Moreover, once the day is saved and everything is sewn up, we never see Bebo again. Convenient, no? Bebo was basically guiding these 2 bumbling goofs the entire way with straight-up divine intervention. Number 4. How was Marty playing a guitar that hadn't been invented yet? Back to the Future. At the Enchantment Under the Sea dance, how is Marty able to play a Gibson ES-345, which wasn't produced until 1959, some 4 years later, I hear you ask? Redditor I Sphincter solved this one in a manner that's both hilariously creative and creatively watertight, beyond the obvious fact that somebody in the prop department clearly messed up. They argue that Chuck Berry's cousin, Marvin Berry, and his band, the Starlighters, were themselves time travelers, who helped Marty ensure his own existence in order to maintain the continuity of the universe. Yep, this explains why Marvin has a guitar that doesn't exist yet, as well as why we can hear a reverb tank when Marty kicks over the amplifier, which itself wasn't invented until 1961, accepting that the guitar was vital in making Marty's parents fall for one another, and that the Starlighters managed to keep up with Marty's rendition of Johnny B. Good despite apparently never hearing the song before, it also not existing at the time. It's incredibly easy to believe that they too were time travelers. That's without mentioning the profound look of the band sitting in the very car that Marty is locked in, eventually allowing him to escape. Marvin then fakes cutting his hand in order to get Marty on stage to perform his barnstorming rendition of Johnny B. Good, get his parents together, and ensure the universe unfolds as it should. Though this is unlikely to ever be formally confirmed by Robert Zemeckis or Bob Gale, it totally works without disrupting the series' delicate approach to causality. Number 3. Why didn't the villagers age? Beauty and the Beast 2017. It's established in the 2017 live-action Beauty and the Beast remake that the prince's curse extends to the nearby villagers also, causing them to forget the existence of the prince, his formerly human servants, and the castle itself. But this ultimately generated an additional issue. While it's a given that the prince and his various servants didn't age while cursed, this doesn't explain why the villagers also appear to have remained the same age. At the very end of the movie, when Mrs. Potts is reunited with Mr. Potts, they still appear to be about the same age, implying that he hasn't aged in her absence. But why? Within days of the film's release, Redditor Hainted chimed in with a solution. According to them, the entire village was cursed by the Enchantress, to the extent that they were actually locked in a time loop for the duration of the curse. Beyond their lack of aging, there's the fact that Belle mentions knowing exactly when everybody in the village wakes up, and also that the village baker has the same tray of goods every single day. Suspicious, no? Hainted goes on to add that Belle and her father Maurice are themselves actually exempt from the curse, having moved to the village after it took effect. Though there's some wiggle room for the duration of the curse, a few days makes the most sense. It absolutely tracks with the story as we see it, and adds another unsettling layer to the curse. Number 2. Why does Obi-Wan age so rapidly? Star Wars: A New Hope. Ever since the release of the Star Wars prequels, fans have been baffled by the possibility that the comparatively youthful Obi-Wan Kenobi of Revenge of the Sith could possibly become the much older Kenobi of A New Hope a mere 19 years later. The issue reared its head once again in the recent Obi-Wan Kenobi Disney Plus series, where despite McGregor being roughly 20 years older than he was in the prequels, it still wasn't believable that a mere 9 years after the show's events, he would be the aged Kenobi of A New Hope. After all, Ewan McGregor was still more than a decade younger than original Kenobi actor Alec Guinness was when he filmed A New Hope. So beyond that obvious practical limitation, what gives? Just before the Kenobi series began to air, Twitter user Tom S. The Voice came up with a simple but effective theory that many fans have immediately incorporated into their own headcanon. At some point in the future, Obi-Wan will be subjected to a force power which drains his life force, in turn making him look older than he otherwise naturally would, bringing him in line with the Guinness version of the character. While it's absolutely possible this solution will be proven wrong by a second season of the show, given that we saw Palpatine age rapidly in Revenge of the Sith after being hit with his own Force lightning, there is precedent for it. Number 1. Why does Buzz freeze if he doesn't think he's a toy? Toy Story. Ever since the release of the original Toy Story, fans have questioned why Buzz Lightyear would freeze like the other toys when a human enters the room if he doesn't in fact believe he's a toy. Though many theories have been posited by fans over the years, the one that's maintained the most traction suggests that Buzz's act of freezing is nothing more than an instinctive action effectively programmed into all toys, regardless of their own self-awareness, in order to prevent them ruining the mystery and traumatizing children. This theory also graduated into outright canon in 2010, when Toy Story 3 director Lee Unkrich confirmed on Twitter that it was indeed an involuntary instinct, which dictates Buzz's freezing up when necessary. So that's that then.